Hello everybody, my name is Luke Mar and this is HauteLeMode, and today on HauteLeMode we are going to be finishing off the reviews of the last day of the haute couture season for fall/winter 2019. I'm sorry this video was a little bit late, it's just that there was this whole thing called the 4th of July, American Independence. I honestly had to go, on a weekend vacation, so this video had to wait. Apologies, but here it is now, so don't worry. Before we get any further into the video, though, if you guys are looking for a channel that talks about fashion the most fun, sassy, bitchy, analytical way, this is it. So you can go down below, hit the subscribe button, and turn on my post notifications. I mean, like, what do you have to lose? You're already here. And if you guys want to see more from me, you can follow me on Instagram at HauteLeMode. I post some pretty poppin' fashion memes, and my Instagram stories are always pretty lit. And if you want to see even more from me, you can follow me on Instagram at HauteLeMess, and on Twitter at HauteLeMess as well, for my more personal opinions and outfits. Enjoy. So let's just get right into these reviews. Firstly, we're going to be talking about Valentino. Pier Paolo Pacioli knows how to do couture, and we are forever grateful that Valentino lets him do it. To me, he is one of the masterminds of the industry currently, at least. He doesn't need to use crazy silhouettes or insane techniques, because his work with textiles and color is so spectacular. They're just usually the main attractions of his collections. This season, Pier Paolo focused on the idea of individuality, and how the idea of individuality is really beautiful when people share and come together to create and show off their own individualities. Pier Paolo's Valentino also has some very defining factors. Jewel tones that others wish that they could pull off, feather work that has reinvigorated a whole industry and inspired like 7 million red carpet pieces, clean lines that ooze elegance, and a really natural eye for color blocking that even the rainbow would be jealous of. Well, those wonderful qualities all came together and sprouted this really beautiful Valentino haute couture collection that you are currently seeing. The collection started with this bodacious yellow look that had this really beautiful flower embellished bodice, but also had this tiered skirt where there was this yarn that was twisted that almost had this sort of like dread-like consistency. It was wonderful. Pier Paolo, who is usually known for his use of feathers in the world of haute couture, seems to have no problem experimenting with other textiles. While so many other couturiers are really trying to follow what Pier Paolo has done at Valentino and use feathers or tulle, Pier Paolo was one step ahead of all of these bitches. It's just true. We then got some really beautiful color blocked looks, mixing clementine and lavender, or light lilac and blue combined with really clean lines and a little bit of drama from a cape or a tied sash is really where Pier Paolo shines. Not only can he create these over-the-top crazy looks, but he also knows how to really make pieces that people want to wear, that are elegant and simple, yet are actually striking, unlike some people. He also added florals this season, which we did see last season as well, although they were in pinks, purples, blacks, and greens. But he did add some new things as well, like this really beautiful floral print that almost looked like it had been hand sketched by Dr. Seuss himself, and like, I'm a Dr. Seuss-ophile, like I literally love his stuff, so the little reference, even though I don't know if it's actually a reference, I lived. The model, Lauren Hutton, at the tender age of 75, blushed and shrugged innocently as she walked down the runway as well. And she showed that at Valentino, age doesn't matter, and that anybody could and should wear the clothes from Valentino. And while Pier Paolo was experimenting with other textiles, it didn't mean that he left his feather-loving clients out in the dust. There was this one coat that I can only describe as the chicest pimp coat I have ever seen in my entire life. And I haven't seen a lot of pimp coats, but like I can imagine that this is the chicest pimp coat in the world. The feathers just like bounced with attitude, and like I don't know what technique you get like feathers to bounce that way, but like sign me up. Teach me. I want to know. One full cape piped with blue and white feathers was magical. And the Birds of Paradise print on it is so rich and wonderful. I just like am awestruck by his print work. And then the way that Pier Paolo piped these really beautiful pieces with those chunky yarns was insane. Like he matched everything. So if it went purple, green, purple, green, purple, green, he matched it with the yarn so that like the yarn was put. The man is so smart. And while there are these crazy, over-the-top, amazing pieces, ones that we can enjoy for the sheer spectacality of them, there are still plenty of wearable garments. like brown capes, sheer jewel tone gowns, and the most beautiful interpretation of a cheetah print done with light caramels, dark browns, and metallics. I also haven't always been a fan of Pier Paolo putting full prints on pieces. I just feel like sometimes it hasn't always worked. But this season, I was shooketh because it did. I mean, between the mountain landscape, the floral bouquets, and the embellished foliage surrounded by clouds in the sky, it's hard not to recognize his talent for presenting images on clothing. The rest of the collection is a group of things that I personally hate, but somehow Pier Paolo managed to make me love. I mean, between the leopard gown, the bows everywhere, and then your like run-of-the-mill everyday haute couture, like beautiful embellished gowns with the silvers and the golds and the blah, blah, blah. I don't know why, but I loved it. It was very shocking for me. One thing that did strike me as odd throughout the collection were the headpieces. Some were very normal, they had the yarn or they had the feathers, and it was very Pier Paolo. But some seemed like they had been attributed to the Aka people's traditional headpieces. It was pointed out by Inside the Mood on Instagram. And so I did some research, and from what I've read, the Aka people have been described as one of the smallest, poorest, and least developed hill tribe groups in Southeast Asia, but they are among the most well-known to tourists. The Aka people are known for their very distinct traditional dress, and unfortunately Pier Paolo did not do a great job of expressing why he chose those pieces as a focal point in the collection, nor did it seem like he was giving back to the Aka people in any particular way. And this is how a simple fashion choice becomes cultural appropriation. A massive fashion house takes a certain piece from a culture and never gives back or never gives retribution to the people that they've taken it from, and eventually will discard it because it's no longer fashionable. That's a problem. And unfortunately, Pier Paolo is joining his previous partner, Valentino Maria Grazia, in the cultural colonizer category this season. Pier Paolo did close the collection out by bringing the hard-working members of the Valentino atelier out for his final bow. To me, this shows that Pier Paolo not only makes great clothes, but he's rebelling against the ideas of class and prestige the fashion industry and couture specifically really hold on to. Instead of allowing the artisans who make these beautiful clothes every single day to just toil in the background, Pier Paolo forces his clients and the majority of the fashion press to recognize them as the amazing skilled workers that they are, which also tears down the notion that in fashion only one singular person is responsible for a collection. And honestly, that we have to stand. For the most part, this was a beautiful, wonderful, amazing collection that I was so happy to see from Pier Paolo, and he very rarely lets us down. There were some cultural appropriation issues that have to be addressed, but for the most part, I was quite pleased. Next up is Margiela. Maison Margiela doesn't actually show haute couture under John Galliano. It shows what the brand calls an artisanal collection. Essentially, it's more of a show of avant-garde fashion than a demonstration of the strict criteria that goes into being an haute couture house. This season, Galliano took his theme from last season, which was decadence, and began to strip it down. The show opened with a cape, under it a vest of sorts, with Galliano's contrast stitching, which has become one of his Margiela staples. The vest had an open flap, which kind of reminded me of a bodysuit, which was all covered by a transparent pair of pants and a pair of blue heels, which had this little beautiful black detailing on it. The collection continued with deconstructed looks, which followed the idea of gender-bending tropes. One look had no shirt, but a bib similar to a sailor uniform. While the sailor outfit was popularized by Victor Willis in The Village People, as the sailor was something that was extremely lusted after by gay men throughout history. Another look had a British schoolboy sweater, shirt, and pair of shorts, accessorized with a garter belt and knee-high, high-heeled boots. I mean, listen, 8-year-old me in Catholic school would have 100% rocked the look every day. The women's looks were quite butch, although they were gowns. Many of the looks were created by hacking and slashing, military-colored trenches, and then were belted, which cinched the waist in. There were gowns made of pinstripe pants and corsets made from what looked like used leather. To me, the first half of the collection really took this ideal of Margiela, which essentially is the real taking of one thing and deconstructing it, and then reconstructing it to be this entirely new thing. Margiela was like the king of upcycling before upcycling was chic. But John really mixed it with this idea of like gender non-conformity, and so there were a lot of masculine attributes to women's looks and a lot of feminine attributes to men's looks. The second half of the collection took that upcycling idea of Margiela and pumped it up with all of this amazing John Galliano-ness. If that's a word, I made it up. John Galliano-ness. Put it in the dictionary. I mean, that reflective black coat reminds me of so many coats from John Galliano's tenure at Dior. The sheer organza suits in different bright colors felt like it mixed John's color aesthetics with Margiela's ability to take these pieces that probably nobody wants and make them very chic and desirable. The gowns were magnificent as well, especially the bell gown with the cinched waist, and then there was another beautiful gown with this amazing cape that followed it. It was gorgeous. Overall, if you really understand the ideas of Margiela and John Galliano, you can see that this collection expertly blends those two things together. And it really shows that John Galliano, while some may say is a bit outdated, he still got it. He knows what he's doing. Next up is Guo Pei. Guo Pei is the couturier that we all dream of. She mixes the avant-garde, similar to designers like Galliano and Iris van Herpen, with conventional techniques of haute couture like the designers Zuhair Murad and Elie Saab. And that makes her one of the strongest contenders in the haute couture game. Maybe not financially or in terms of popularity, but in the skill, effort, and determination to dress her clients, but also make them intelligent and more interesting than the clients of almost every other couturier. This season was called Alternate Universe and focused on the idea of the macabre and death. Probably the most memorable look of this haute couture season has to be Guo Pei's conjoined twin pannier dress, embellished in gold, black, and blue, with crows, monkey gods, and terrified children highlighting this illuminated manuscript style dress. Like literally, I don't know anybody else that could like bring together like beautiful Asian folklore references with like illuminated manuscripts and also like conjoined twins in 17th century style and like make it work. Very few people can mix that many references together and, you know, have it not be crazy. This is probably one of the most unwearable dresses of all time, because not only do you have to find somebody who would like it, somebody who would wear it, and then you'd have to find somebody else to walk in sync with, but you'd also then have to convince the other person to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on the dress for something that you can only wear once or twice. I mean, if that's not couture, I don't know what is. The collection followed with a beautiful hooded cocktail dress accentuated with feathers and bright blue eyes staring at you, and a caged skirt accentuated with metallic gold monkeys. There was this beautiful kimono-inspired dress, which instead of being wrapped and tied like an actual kimono, was actually bound by a frilled girdle in the center of the dress that was superb. I mean, between the flowing sleeves, the blue and white embroidery, and the beautiful piping came together to pull this Japanese cultural staple into something new that nobody has ever actually really done before. And Guo Pei is not just relying on techniques or couture fabrics, she also is truly innovating the game. She's using pineapple hemp. Hemp, if you guys do not know, is a very natural fabric that is currently being explored as a sustainable way to create clothes. And I think the fact that an haute couturier is taking this Filipino delicacy of pineapple hemp and turning it into something that a couture client would desire is something that we should be lauding her for because it's amazing and sustainable and wonderful. And also the fact that she's even taking that chance to take that idea of sustainability and put it in her custom work. It's just major, and I don't think that Guo Pei gets the recognition she deserves ever. One gown depicted this monkey that was playing with these like Victorian style marionettes, and I just like lose my mind over the fact that she's creating these storylines on a dress, you know? Like, I love Pier Paolo, and I was talking about his work with imagery before, but Guo Pei kind of blows him out of the water in terms of she's not only putting an image on clothes, but she's creating a storyline on a singular dress. And like that is phenomenal. I mean, there was this one dress that looked like it was a color-filled grotto. Another felt like a priestly stole embroidered with blue and gold. And then there was this one dress that literally had like a hole in it that was holding like little eggs for the birds that had been all over the collection the entire time. All in all, Guo Pei is one of China's most famous designers. And for the most part, Western fashion never actually gives her a chance. But the thing is, Guo Pei doesn't let them not give her a chance because she always makes such a fucking spectacle that you have to watch. And that is why we stan. Finally, let's talk about Fendi. Fendi Haute Couture is a very special thing, seeing as how almost all the other couture houses actually show 2 collections a year. Fendi only shows 1 because, listen, it's a fur and leather house, so they only really show fall and winter collections. It makes sense, right? This collection, like its counterpart Chanel, was the first haute couture collection designed without the help of Karl Lagerfeld for the house. Yet, it was dedicated to him. And the fact that the show was held outside of the Colosseum in Rome was something that Karl had always wanted to do, and luckily it was a nice way to honor him. The opening look was dazzling. I mean, that beautiful sleeve jacket and then that boot cut pant. It was gorgeous. It was a great way to set the tone for the show. And then there were those beautiful shaved fur coats that you would think were printed to look like marble, but no, it was fur that was shaved in the shade and style of marble. So imagine fur that looks like marble. It doesn't even make sense. That's how good it was. And personally, I found the smartest thing about this entire collection happened to be the accessories. Haute couture doesn't normally include accessories. It's just not really the thing that people are looking for. They're looking at the clothes. But between the striped fur stoles, the amazing little croc bags, and the oversized Fendi fur baguette bags, I just was like, oh shit, like they're not here to play games. Like, Silvia Venturini Fendi is like delivering fucking content that you are going to look at. Speaking of Silvia Venturini Fendi, she actually has been designing with Karl Lagerfeld for the House of Fendi for a long time, seeing as how she's one of the last remaining Fendis to be involved with the brand. And honestly, she has come into her own. Like, this is her just by herself. She delivered. It was a beautiful, wonderful collection. And the fact that she's just, you know, a member of the house, she's part of the family, and she's worked with Karl Lagerfeld for years, showed. And you know what, I'm not even gonna say the thing that I was gonna say, but you can assume the thing I was gonna say, but I'm not gonna say it. Okay? Okay. Silvia also discussed how the ideas of climate change and, you know, just the general hotness, considering it was 95 degrees Fahrenheit during the show, was something she wanted to take into account. So you could see that a lot of the fur was sleek, airy, and minxish. Not mink-ish, but minxish. It was really, really smart and subtle and chic, whereas fur is normally seen as something that's big and puffy and over the top and gigantic. You know? It's just a different way to go about looking at fur. But the thing is, that's what Karl Lagerfeld always did at Fendi. He was never afraid to experiment with fur. And luckily, Silvia did not stop there. There was this beautiful piece that almost looked like it was a sphere of fur. It was 3 lines that came across and created this sort of like cape. It was revolutionary. I've never seen a sphere of black fur before in my entire life. And like now I have, and now I can die peacefully. But that's the thing. Sylvia understands how to honor Carl. He revolutionized the idea of fur and how to design it. And she's not afraid to continue that revolution. And something that I didn't even think I was, gonna like were the prints. The prints were very Fendi. It's something we've been seeing for the past few seasons, but they were nice. They were simple, they were subtle, but they were also colorful. I didn't love every single thing, but I liked a majority of it, and that's very shocking for me because normally I kind of can't stand Fendi. It's just not something I'm ever like, wow, this is so amazing, this is so great. I usually think it's quite gimmicky, it's boring, it's just a show that you have to look at because of the name and it's a big house, but it's never something that ever excites me. So I was very shocked this season. I'm hoping that Sylvia stays. I've heard some things about certain people going to Fendi. I hope that that never happens because I will fucking kill myself because Sylvia seems to be delivering where it needs to be delivered. It's great. Overall, Sylvia Venturini Fendi is, the person that I really admire and is the reason that this collection was so good. And from this debut solo collection, it's pretty obvious that she doesn't need anybody to help her design for her family's house. And so, why would we try? So that is the end of the video. Please let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, opinions, comments, concerns, critiques about all of the collections we discussed. I will see you guys in the next video. So, TTYL.